made some changes down here. In addition to fighting floodwater, is I got rid of the two little tables I had off the end of the lathe and built one big table that the lathe sits up against. Now when I drop something over the back of the lathe, lands on the table. The two small tables, built the first one because I needed one. After a while I needed another one, so I built another one. The two tables together were awkward in the way and inefficient, so I built this one. Drilled holes for all the scrapers and skews and oddballs, parting tools, things I don't use. The gouges I use most of the time are still over here. The big Forstner bits, stuff that was on one of the tables. The rest of the Forstner bits are in this one. Underneath, it's full of chuck jaws. I have all my measuring stuff in one box. Used the good sandpaper in another box. Rags are in a box down here under the table. Instead of scattered everywhere, I put this shelf intentionally high enough to get those boxes under it. The shelf holds blanks and once turned. Got this alder bowl turned 51 weeks ago. It was in a bag of chips. Do something I've not done before, but I watched Richard Raffin do it, Tomislav Tomasic do it. Works well for them. $900. This is my first time trying this technique, so there's a lot of cut and try, cut and try, cut and try, instead of just cutting the recess and turning it around. That should do it, I think. The Vicmark chuck wrench is straight, and that limits the depth at which I can tighten the chuck. Can't get in there with this. This one has a knob on the end, not quite the right size. The record power chuck key is just a little bit smaller than the Vicmark, but it'll work. That's not in there correctly. Take it off the other one and see what I'm doing. Oh yeah, the other way. That looks correct. Not really. The recess I'd cut was too shallow, and now the chuck jaws are following the marks left from the first incorrect installation. I scraped off the chuck marks and went just a little deeper. Yes. I don't know if I want to go any smaller on this tenon with this larger bowl. I might make a new one out here. I remarked in a previous video that I was surprised that my expensive Vicmark chuck did not have a set screw for turning in reverse. Reading the literature again today. When you spin that on there, it is on tight. Designed that way so you can spin it in reverse without a set screw. Don't know how that works, but it does. That's all that counts. $800. My 1/2-inch yellowhammer bowl gouge has long been my favorite until I got a D-Way 5/8, and now it's my favorite. Here's my 5/8. Don't think it's round yet. Yes, it is. Most of the bowls I make just sit on the table. The advantage of making a foot that can double as a tenon is you don't have to take it off. So that's what I'm going to try on this one. Make a bead sort of foot that will look nice, but will also fit my large chuck. Make a little bit of a bead here for the chuck to hold on to. Speed up to about 1100. The closer I got to the rim of the bowl, the more it began to chatter. The chattering is going from bunk to side grain. The end grain was solid, not punky, but it was tearing out quite a bit. Maybe I'd get better results with a scraper. Off with the old burr, on with the new. My elbow bumps into the gun safe when I'm crossing right through here, and it's a little bit ridgy. My heavy gun safe is in the way because it's out from the wall, and I'm not going to put it back until after the rainy season so I can seal up once and for all the tiny leaks in the concrete behind and under it. I didn't measure the foot or tenon. I hope that's a correct size for something somewhere. I just turned one that looked right for the bowl. It's bound to fit somewhere in my step jaws, I hope. Not really a shoulder there for it to sit on. The curved bowl would have probably sat on the jaws just fine, but I gave it a little bit of a shoulder just to be sure. I think that would probably work. Most of the surface was smooth enough. I could have started with 180 or maybe even 240, but up near the rim there's torn end grain. I can start with 100. In reverse. It's sanded through 320. Torn end grain is almost entirely gone. Shellac-based sanding sealer. Too often I settle for defects being almost entirely gone. And that will be it for today. This is dry already and ready for axe. I treated the outside of the bowl with Axe abrasive paste and Axe carnauba wax, and for the second time called it a day. See the dark green here? That's where the axe has filled in. That little bit of torn grain. I want to get that out before I put the wax on. This is one little patch. Should have taken the time to sand until it was gone. Now make sure it's all off. A little discoloration there. Almost none there. And the towel comes away completely clean. The abrasive paste is gone. After this hard wax is applied, turn up the speed to 1,000 or more to generate enough heat to melt it in. 1100. Generating heat. The closer you work to the center, the greater the need for speed. Let that cool and solidify before I use a paper towel to wipe off any excess. That's torn grain. Pisses me off. Did it to myself. That's cool. I wipe off any excess wax with a clean paper towel and at a very slow speed. Don't want to generate heat and melt the wax back off. Now the question is, where's it going to fit in here? I hope in the outer ring, and almost closed. And it looks like I got lucky. If that were a hair smaller, there would be no corner mark. Spins true. Probably going to be slight corner marks, which I'll have to hand sand out. But for just guessing, if this was closed half again that distance, the pressure would be center of the jaws, not the corner of the jaws. Another millimeter smaller or two would have done it. Still a ½ inch thick, even down there. And here we've got almost 3/4, 5/8, half. So I can shape that nicely tomorrow, and there will be no torn grain on the inside of this one. Well, this torn end grain bothered me last night, so I'm going to scrape this off till it's gone, sand it again, sanding sealer again, and axe treatment again. It's too nice a bowl to leave a defect out of sheer laziness. So safety glasses on. Got a fresh burr, a round scraper. Running 875. If you already realize why this will not work, you're ahead of me. Changed shape a little, did we? Cutting deeper on this side and this side. And it's tearing up grain worse than before. What I need to do is turn this around the way it was. Bingo. Okay. Thousand. Place is not touching is the place I needed to touch. The bowl either changed shape slightly overnight or it's not seated on the chuck exactly as it was before. But to continue with tools would take too much wood off, so I decided I would have to sand it. And I'm not going to show you any sanding. Sanding through 400 just because I have this 400 disc sitting there for a long time. Ready for sanding sealer, and then I'll be ready for breakfast. I have no idea what's in shellac-based sanding sealer other than shellac. I make my own shellac heck of a lot cheaper than I can buy sanding sealer. I think after this is gone, which will be soon, I'll just try straight shellac for a while as a sanding sealer. This has had plenty of time to dry, a couple hours anyway. I'd normally burnish it with a handful of chips. Don't have any chips. Turning into a neat housekeeper at my old age. Don't have chips when you need them. Use white Scotch-Brite pad. Smooth that a little bit. I can feel the difference. And now axe for the second time. The outside is done. Shiny but not glassy. Smooth end grain. The way it should have been last night if I had stayed with it. Okay. Turn it around again. See if I can find any marks on here to... Yes. Jaws marks. Very faint. Should have made that just a little bit smaller. It occurs to me as I edit this, if I'd rotated the bowl 45 degrees, I would have 8 sets of corner marks, but 8 would look like a decoration. Start in with a spindle gouge, I think. And have to run the fan. Dusty wood. 1,000. Need a shield for this one. Cutting pretty well. I am going to sharpen it though, so it will cut even better. My house fogs up, I can't see. Getting in my own way here. Damn it. Hate it when I do that. I look away, but I don't pull the tool away first. Got lucky. No visible damage this time. I wonder if I can reach out the bowl gouge. I can. So I switched to my 5/8 bowl gouge. Lean into this. I let the unsupported left wing of the gouge get into the wood and got a mild catch. I changed the angle slightly to get the cutting edge closer to the point. The ridgy areas got to come down just a little bit. Shape's good, a little domed in the center. Take some severe sanding, and we'll do it. Need to clean up this a little bit too. ready for sanding. I'll start out with 80. Might have to go down to 60. Sand it up through 400. I normally do 320, but I've got discs all the way up to 3,000 because when I started turning almost 3 years ago, I just bought a big set of discs, not knowing what I would need. So since I have 400, I used it. Wipe off the dust with this cloth. I spent about an hour sanding, I think. Didn't time it. Hand sand, power sand, hand sand, power sand, all the grits, stopping at each one to pay special attention to places that needed it. Okay, sanding sealer for this one now. It's been only a few minutes, but I think this is ready. That was a reasonably nice job. I can feel a very slight unevenness right there in the turn where I spent extra time sanding with the power sander to get a little bit of torn grain out of there, so it's not as symmetrical as it would be if it were molded plastic. And there we are. Lovely shining bowl with no sanding marks that I can see. Now, the marks in the foot. Barely discernible there, and there, and there, and there. I'm not going to do anything about those. I would just make the next foot a millimeter smaller. I think that came out all right. I hope you think so too. Thanks for watching.